Rainbowzooka.
Welcome. Anyway,
Wow.
so writing.
So much gay just happened.
Well,
is that gay?
Gay plus gay equals gay.
well,
Equals straight. Even though I made a circle.
See what? See this?
One, the circle is not very straight. Two, I'm like queer to the third power, and you are super flame. So,
I want a shirt that says that.
I am super flame.
I am super flame. The strongest.
The strongest
here.
So our intro just went to hell, but whatever.
No, that was dyslexia. I totally reversed the whole sentence. I think I have speech dyslexia. Because writing, I'm fine. Numbers, I'm fine. Speech dyslexia. The second, and I do actually this with dance, the second I'm like, hey, I need to spell this particular word, A-E, I switch it. And I'm like, every time.
I only speak because I'll do that on occasion. Or I'll either have two words in a sentence that are swapped. Just
I'm going to take a moment to stop this here. What are we talking about today?
Writing!
Writing! Or something. And apparently our inability to words. I write a lot. He's learning, she needs to find time to write.
I love writing. It just...
She writes a ton when you have time.
And I'm
you come up with big ideas.
Yeah.
We have a world, we have built. We have multiple, we have a few.
If I could show you the sheer amount of notes on plot devices, outlines for chapters and whole stories, crime scenes, oh my god,
you did a lot of research for the crime scenes.
You have to teach me!
I'm gonna just point out right now, I Google mapped London to find a path which was not completely visible on CCTV, so I could plan a murder for a story. And I spent 3 hours doing this.
Whereas I've just learned more about the Marvel Comics universe. I live with a Marvel fanboy who has read all of Marvel from issue 1 to about 2005.
Glasses.
I'm in the Marvel fan, she's in the supernatural fandom a bit. Well, you read that, you don't write for it. You're still of the homeland, of our Sherlockian homeland.
This is how it works. When I dive into a fandom, I lurk. I lurk like nobody's business.
She lurks in a lot.
She's such a creeper!
I read and I read and I read and I obsess and I critique, and then I start plotting. And that's where I am with the supernatural fandom. I have plotted. I have made several little stories that I would just love to
dabble.
But writing takes time. Writing takes time because I don't think in words. I'm like this one.
I do.
I don't. I think in pictures. And listening to them talk makes it sound like they're at a buffet. Oh, I'm going to do this one. Oh, what a nice crab rangoon. Oh, I'm going to have some mango too. Oh, what is that? Is that a cream puff? Yes, I will.
Except with verbosity?
Except with writing. Occasional shipping. Which is definitely how I feel with like either video games, dancing, or whatever I'm into. There's always so much to explore. But I guess since I like to do so much that trying to get deeper into, let's say, writing, like that's just so...
It's unfamiliar to you?
It's so unfamiliar with me because everything that I do is all verbal.
For us, though, it's because our first obsession in life, and I think I can speak for both of us when I say that, our first obsession in life is reading.
Yeah.
I was absolutely in love with reading my whole childhood, and that's why writing is such a thing for me. Critiquing, understanding, tearing it apart, putting it together, seeing whole pictures or whole emotional scenes and going, I need to put this to words.
Or just picking out some prose and going, this, I need more of this, oh my god, that's beautiful. And just the way the words are structured, you learn to mimic different styles and change your own style. It's like changing your voice or changing a character when you're performing.
It's like acting on paper.
And I got into theater and I got into Shakespeare while I was already into writing and decided basically, I love the stage and all, but I really like writing more. But it gave me an understanding of the English language that was way deeper than most 13-year-olds, I think. Because I spoke fluent Elizabethan after 8th grade.
Dang. See, like for me, ever since I was small, like I remember everything vividly as a picture, as a scene, as a constant like, not like as a movie, but as a constant
series of pictures.
Series of pictures, exactly.
Pictures and emotions.
Yeah, and so
what even smells a little bit, but just emotional states and imagery.
Exactly, and not just like imagery, but it's just how the imagery was presented. Like when I first discovered video games, like it was so mind-boggling for me, and then of course I discovered cartoons, like somewhere in between there, and it was just all of that kind of.
And she brought you anime and manga.
Exactly, which
is more visually
even more.
Trying to you don't draw that much.
I don't draw that much because again, that like drawing and writing go into the same vein of I could start. I probably have the talent to do so, but that would take so much of my time that I devote to so many other things that I just could not get myself to a point where I would finally be getting out things that I see on paper. I am totally envious. I am totally envious of both of your writing prowess because I only started writing, let's see, about like only 5 years ago, and I don't write all that often because I'm too busy with dancing and doing choreography for that, or trying to do things that I work for and stuff like that. And so when I finally started reading and paying attention to people's writing and what does grammar look like, what does a plot look like,
syntax,
all the different nuances that go into writing, A, I got overwhelmed, but B, when I actually started to get into writing, I was like, oh, this is great, but I let my perfectionistic, that's not a real word, this is my problem.
Perfectionistic
Is it a real word?
Almost.
Almost.
No.
Perfectionism.
Perfectionism? That sounds like a cake.
But that's what that word is.
Okay.
Your perfectionism overwhelmed you and you weren't too busy trying to nitpick what you were doing with a single sentence? Is that why you like me to critique the stuff? Because I do go sentence by sentence and I go, yes, what's wrong?
Because my deal is, the way that I've had to learn is I do something and then when it's corrected, then I was like, okay, I have failed in this, I don't like failure, I don't like the way that that makes me feel, and I can then learn so I don't repeat those mistakes. Unfortunately, writing is so huge that you can make so many mistakes, and a lot of the things that hold me back is making sure that I don't fail the first time, which is idiotic. You're always going to fail. Keep failing because that's how you learn.
For later.
I actually heard a great quote recently from a friend of mine that I was introduced to by Michael. The first draft is always perfect because it's a first draft. You change the first draft every time.
Yes. But the second issue is I just got too overwhelmed and then it just stops me altogether.
I totally understand being overwhelmed with writing because I feel the same way a lot of times.
That's why you have your works in progress.
That's why I let myself start. Because if I can just get the scene out there, the moment, the experience, if I can just perfect that little thing.
I got this thing in my head. There, go.
It's better practice to let it happen and let it go than to hold it back and never get that practice in.
And I ran into that with my crazy fandom obsession as well. Because I mean, I started actually accepting prompts. And I would get ideas from it, and usually I have a single idea, and I get that out, and I'm done. Eventually, it's just usually I end up doing way more than I intended to. I would start to get inspiration on it. I'd be like, I have these works in progress, I can't possibly. And slowly it's just become, no, I have to work with this inspiration because it's too cool. I have to go ahead and let this out, however many words that takes, and then I can go back to the other project.
That's a process of writing too. That's why I have to let myself go ahead and get out the little scraps, all the little beginnings that I had, the little scenes with no home, no story to add to, just because once it's out there, once it's on paper, if I can capture that moment, crystallize it, and take those emotions and actually be able to put them into words, at least practice, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It makes it easier when I have a full scene that I can write out and just get it out, and then wait, maybe later I'll find a story for it. It's things like that, you know, just sometimes you have to be willing to just let it go.
Yeah. And that's part of where fan fiction got addictive for me to write, because it was ready-made worlds. I didn't have to do most of the world building unless I wanted to, in which case it became an addiction completely separate. But I just was able to go, okay, here's the characters. I don't have to necessarily introduce them. I don't necessarily have to set a particular scene except as far as the mood goes and as far as where I'm taking the story. So there was enough already made that I didn't have to focus on and build myself, that I could just rapid fire start figuring out how my prose worked, how I sound as far as word choices go, and I could just do it a lot more rapidly.
That's what it was for me too with fan fiction, is I could practice certain aspects of my writing. I didn't have to make new characters. It was keeping the continuity of the characters actually that I needed to practice with, because then they already have a story, they already have a personality. It's maintaining that from beginning to end, no matter the situation. it's a lot more difficult than people realize.
Yeah, especially if you decide to make it an AU.
AU is an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Which is strange that you guys have such an issue with keeping continuity, because that's actually the opposite of my issue. I always have an issue with starting and ending, with the middle, and keeping continuity. Where is the character at? What is the character thinking? What is its current goals and aspirations? That I can keep in line to a T. Like, that I have no problems with. That is just so easy for me, and I'm not quite sure why. I think it has to deal with a lot of my acting and a lot of my dancing. But Positioning, exactly. Like, where is this position? Are they looking this way? Are they looking that way? Why are they looking that particular way? That's just so easy for me. But it's why is that person doing that? That's my always problem.
Really?
Because it's history.
I'm the opposite.
It's just so strange.
Keeping up with a longer story, as I do more of the building of that universe and introduce new characters, I have to go back and maintain my continuity as far as days go. But for the most part, I don't have as much trouble with it. I don't have to research the timelines, especially working with the fandom I'm currently in. There's plenty of time muddling built in. With the writing and plot construction, it's almost more of a mental version of muscle memory. You get used to going, okay, where is the plot? Where is this character going? I'm working with the relationship focus on these two characters. I need to get them from this point to this point. These are some of the plot events that go along the way, and the rest of it is just letting the prose take you between places. And that's how I end up doing it. I get a bare skeleton and a few events that I'm aiming for, but I keep the aim not detailed so that I can build it as needed based on what the characters decide to do.
As a beginning writer, like that aspect of it is so very, very difficult for me. Whenever I actually start writing, a lot of my writing is very scene-based. Like, I want this particular scene to happen, and the reaction that the characters are going to go by is also based on that particular scene, not necessarily like where I want it to go.
Yeah.
And I feel it kind of traps me, which is okay, because sometimes I like the trap. Okay, how do I get my characters out of this particular situation? But at the same time, that same argument that we made earlier, which is, I created this beast, and I want it to look like this. Oh my god, it's evolved into, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!
Yeah, and then you freak out because things have not gone according to plan. But at the same time, that's how you develop characters. And
right, and it's great. It's absolutely great that way, but sometimes, I don't know, I feel like, it can fall apart on you, and as a beginning writer, that's just
terrifying.
It's terrifying, because you don't know how to pick up the pieces. So what I end up doing, I write what I can anyway, or I just leave it, which is probably like the worst thing, because if you just give up, and you don't keep practicing, and you don't keep working through it, that's just so bad.
One of the solutions I actually came up with that, if I do write myself into a corner, I find where about that corner became inevitable, and I just cut out that chunk, like it's usually a couple paragraphs. Just cut off that chunk and drop it in another document. And so I can go back and reuse the ideas that it has later if I want. But otherwise, I can just continue the scene and aim it slightly differently.
Like an idea bank.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I call it my scrap page, actually. Yeah. I did the same thing. I look at a page and I go, I really like this piece, but I can't use it here. Just
drop it in there, come back to it later to save the pieces you want. It's extremely useful. I've had that point where I've been like, that got away from me. Where did I shouldn't have had him say that. But that led into this. I can come back to that later. And just take that chunk out and put it in, maybe bring that into a conversation at a later point that it's a little more targeted for the plot.
I have such a hard time with going back through the first draft and editing it. Like, just the idea, at least for me, I'm such a perfectionist. I have to finish it in one go. And so the thought and the idea of actually going back and rereading my stuff, like, it feels almost as if somebody else wrote it. And that scares me.
Opposite problem. I feel like I'm so familiar with it, having written it, that I have to wait a certain amount of time before I go back, because otherwise I instinctively skim and I miss things I need to correct. Because I'm too busy going, yep, I remember that. And it's...
Your brain autocorrects for you too. Like, I had that problem. I have to have an outside reader look at my stuff while I'm editing, because...
Reading it out loud works.
It doesn't work for me, because I will read it out loud and I will still fill in the blanks for myself. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's totally what I mean. But I need someone who doesn't know my writing to go, what the hell are you saying?
Which is why I always have both of you read my writing, like, hey, what does this look like? What does this sound like? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
And I tell you, Michael? Michael, this sentence isn't a thing.
We have two very different editing styles, too, I noticed. Like, for me, I want to protect your style, but I need you to grow as a writer. So I will forego a lot of the detail editing for, look what you're doing at the big picture. And she will go in and go, all of this is wrong.
I go, from a technical perspective, this sentence needs work, here's why. This sentence needs work, here's why. And I will point out things. And when I do that with your writing, we have known each other so long enough, it starts to change your style. Because I just start to lose track of what I'm doing. Because our writing is almost similar in some ways.
Which is good, but I need both of you. So it's great to have that perspective.
She'll pick your overall.
Yeah.
I'm your technical.
Because I need the technical writing. I am so bad at grammar.
A little bit. You need English.
I need to English. I like to put past tense and present tense
together,
and then I like to use present tense and future tense. Sometimes, which is my favorite, my personal favorite, I like to put past and future together, because those are a match made in heaven. Which works in vocal. It totally works because it allows imagery, but in writing, that completely takes you out of the page. So
yeah, it's one of those things where you have to balance. This is how I want to sound. This is how I'm going to speak these words to your brain hole. Versus, this is how writing works. Please don't do this to me as a reader.
Yeah, it's the difference between being a narrator and being a character, and he's very much a character.
Very much a character.
He's very much a character, and we love this character. He's adorable. So you could probably write more in first person, actually.
I'm still trying to figure out like what voice I want to provide for the story.
You
that I'm
also
writing.
switch perspectives, and that pisses me the off.
Why?
It's so jarring. You don't even if you're in the middle of a story.
It's like
that's like what?
Okay, let me put it in a visual term for you. When you're watching a movie and you are in the eyes of the character, you're watching the scene happen. The camera's panning like the eyes would skim. Characters are talking to the camera like they're talking to a person, and you're like, okay, I am this person. I am part of this scene. All of a sudden, you see a cityscape, and then you're not part of it anymore. You're like, whoa, wait. Where the f*** am I?
Who am I?
Who am I?
People real?
What is my purpose in life? What's this round thing coming at me very fast? Very, very fast. It's a big
well, how would you fix that?
Well,
how would you fix that?
It's a very delicate take. You can switch perspectives, but you have to be very careful. There needs to be a distinct cut.
Yeah. You need a smooth transition. You need a segue.
How would you write that? Like, how would you write that for our folk?
It depends on the scenes. It depends on exactly what purpose the change in perspective serves, too. You can't say that easy off the bat. You can't. Okay. There's not an easy fix.
Let's make an example of this. Okay. Let's say you want to build a world. You want to just give these people this grand view of fantastic tapestries and a busy city life.
There's a history. There's an engineering culture. There's a courtesy thing.
And you want to snapshot this, but you also want to describe your main character. What you want to do, what I would do in this situation, you go ahead and describe the big picture. You describe the city. You describe the surrounding area. You segue into a particular building and the history of the building and the richness of its culture. Slide into that very room that your character is in. Describe everybody. Focus your attention suddenly on your character, and then sink into the character's perspective.
That's the absolute opposite of what I do.
Like, no,
that's why we're so great. We're just so diverse.
Like, I've done the exact opposite as well, and you can do it that way, the same way. It's just I'm looking at it from a camera view as opposed to a character view. Yeah. There are two options. You can go both ways. And it's perfectly plausible in each version. You just have to know what you want to do and why you're doing it. Why you're doing it is so important.
It's the difference between the pan-in through Discworld and Clockwork Orange, where you're forced to learn the jargon before you even really understand the universe. It's a different thing. It depends on the story. Storytelling's complicated.
Hey! Thank you guys so much for watching our episode of Rainbowzooka.
If you liked it, hit that like button right there. I know you want to.
Or if you really enjoyed it, yeah, I know you did. You enjoyed them, you enjoyed me, we enjoyed you. Click that subscribe button.
Super enjoyment coming every week. Goodbye!
We're ridiculous.
Yes, we are.
Actually, I love love my creative writing class career because my first story was titled "This Doesn't End with a Bang." My last story ended with a bang. I'm so serious.
Nice.
That's exactly. I didn't even do it intentionally. It just happened, and I was just like,
I didn't know you were so narcissistic.
No, when you write something that's really that you go back to later, and you go, damn, I'm good. It's one of the best feelings ever.
it really is, because, like,
Yes.
don't get me wrong.
I wrote that and it's hilarious.
9 times out of 10, I go back at a piece of writing and go, this needs work, this needs work. Why did I think that sounded good?
Yeah.
But then every once in a while you come across that little gem where you're like, oh my god, this is perfection. I don't have to edit this at all.
I'm a god. Do I look like I date?